Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're making one of our favorite comfort foods, Swedish meatballs. We definitely like ours IKEA-style, which means with a creamy gravy and a side of mashed potatoes and lingonberry jam. What sets Swedish meatballs apart is they have some added spices that you might not find in other meatballs. Those spices are allspice and nutmeg, which gives them that unique flavor. I feel like I say this with everything, but it's one of our favorite foods. We just like food. What can I say? All right, let's make these meatballs.
The first thing we're going to do is dice our onion. Normally I would use one small onion. This is quite a large one, so I'm only using half of it. And we're trying to dice it as finely as we possibly can. If you have to pass over a few times with your knife at the end just to make the piece a little bit smaller, that's totally fine. In a large mixing bowl, we're going to combine our ground meat using a mixture of beef and ground pork. You can also use a pre-made mix of pork, beef, and veal. And the total amount of ground meat that I'm using is around 680 grams. Next, I'm adding in our diced onion and then around 40 grams of breadcrumbs. I like to use panko, but you can also use regular breadcrumbs. And I'm cracking in one large egg, as well as adding half a cup of milk. For the seasoning, we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg and then 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground allspice. And of course, can't forget the salt and pepper as well. Now we're just going to mix until it is well combined. If you need to add a little bit more milk to make it easier to mix, definitely do that. You want it to hold together really well, but not be too soggy and not too dry so that it falls apart.
Our meatloaf mix is ready. Now we're gonna head to the stove. Today I'm cooking these in a cast iron skillet. I believe this is a 12-inch skillet. I really like to use cast iron because it gives a really nice sear, but you can use whichever pan that you would prefer. We've also made meatballs in the oven before, which is really easy. You just put them on a baking tray at like 400 for maybe 15-20 minutes. But for a little extra deliciousness, we like to fry them in the pan. Before I get too ahead of myself, it is important right now to check the seasoning on this mix. You can either do that by heating up a little amount of the mixture in the pan, or you can put a small amount in a microwave safe container and heat it up in the microwave until it's fully cooked through, and then just double check that you've added enough salt. I'm gonna add just a tiny bit more salt to mine. Now that our mixture is checked for seasoning, I'm going to heat up the pan on medium heat.
To cook the meatballs, I'm going to use some vegetable oil. I'm also adding a little bit of oil to my hands so that the meatball mixture doesn't stick to them. And then I'm rolling meatballs about 1 inch in diameter and then placing them around the pan. Once the meatballs brown on one side, it is time to flip them. I like to move them around a lot, especially if my pan is not heating super evenly, to get brown on all sides. The meatballs are done when they are no longer pink in the center, or they reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I'm going to wipe out the pan and restart the process until we run out of meatball mixture.
The meatballs are all cooked, so now we're going to make a nice creamy gravy to go with them.
To start, I'm melting 2 tablespoons of butter in the same pan. I did clean it out just to make sure there were no burnt bits on the bottom. Once the butter has melted, I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of flour and whisking it until it forms a paste. Then I'm slowly whisking in beef stock a little bit at a time. It's definitely going to look very lumpy, but you just have to keep whisking and keep adding more liquid until it becomes a smooth gravy. Then I'm adding in a dash of nutmeg and a dash of allspice along with salt and pepper. Last but not least, I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of heavy cream and whisking to combine.
Alright, I got a full meal here. We have our meatballs and our gravy that we just made. And then on the side we have mashed potatoes and a little bit of cranberry sauce. Normally I would use lingonberry jam, but couldn't find any readily available here in Texas, but next time I'm at IKEA, definitely gonna grab some. Let's put together our plate. My favorite part of every video, the tasting part. They're just so comforting, so savory. What's not to love? And like I mentioned before, probably one of the better substitutes for lingonberry jam is cranberry sauce, which you should be able to find across the US. All right. Thank you so much for watching our video. We hope you make these meatballs, and we'll see you for the next video. Bye.